One of the worst things that you can do is assume in business, and it's costing you a lot of money. What's up, FlowChat fam? Hey, we're back for another Spotlight series, always bringing you real people that are getting real results on the front line, cutting through all the BS, which is exactly why today's guest is who we need to talk to. Because for years, he has been not only building his own businesses, but talking to thousands of businesses on how to grow, how to drive revenue. So and he comes from the land of down under. So you need to meet Oscar. Oscar, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, how you going, Chris? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I love that's the phrase right there. How you going, right? That's like we was
Yeah.
like, oh, how you doing? How you
Yeah, how you
going?
doing?
That's
How you going?
yeah. I love it, man. Okay, hey, we're gonna get into your story. We're gonna get into why false assumptions are destroying all of our businesses, and we're all guilty of this, including myself. Before we get there, I want everyone to know Oscar's he's a big freaking deal. He's like, look how young he looks, but yet he has sat down and talked with Mel Gibson. He's talked with John DeMartini. He's talked with some huge, and I know there's a lot more. Oscar, what's another fun name that you've got to talk interview with?
We got Steve Baxter. We got Howard Berg, Guinness World Record holder for speed reading and learning. Just a wonderful interview. Mark Golston, a former FBI negotiator. He was on Oprah. Janine Alice, who's one of the main entrepreneurs here in Australia. She's an iconic entrepreneur. She's on many different TV shows. So the list goes on and on.
It does. And everyone goes a different direction with name dropping. But I know fellow entrepreneurs and business owners, it all comes in falls on great ears here. We celebrate these things and think it's really cool. And there's one other one on your site. Only the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak. No big deal. So there's that one too. So Oscar's been a lot of places, met a lot of people. On this series, we're bringing you real people getting real results. Oscar totally fits that bucket, which is why I'm excited to have this conversation today, Oscar. So I'd like to let people know what you're currently focused on right now. You're working with businesses at a very high level. Can you take us, behind the curtain here?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that, Chris. So look, I'm the executive chairman of a company called The Boardroom, who's collectively done over 17 billion in mergers and acquisitions. We've helped companies increase their sales by 1.2 billion, and we've also done 50 rapid turnarounds. And a rapid turnaround is an organization that's starting to face some turmoil. Maybe the board's starting to backstab each other. Maybe the executive leadership team is starting to put forward a lot of whispers. The strategy's going, they're burning cash, and a rapid turnaround is an organization that desperately needs to turn themselves around or they will go bankrupt. And so it's high pressure, it's high demands, it's people's egos getting in the way. It's tough work. But that's kind of the track record of The Boardroom. So, that's the type of environment that I like operating in because it's always challenging and it's always fun.
Well, I know everyone listening, watching here is not shy of any challenge either. So I'll know they'll love you. Hey, so can we just talk about how you even got there? Because it's not like you just walk into a boardroom or you get a phone call that says, "Hey, so our giant company is, eating itself and being destroyed from the inside out. What do we do?" Where did your story start?
So for me, there was a pivotal moment in my life, and that was when I went on The Voice Australia and instantly gained this level of let's call it fame. It's a minor form of fame, but it's a form of fame nonetheless because you're standing somewhere ordering a coffee, and the person next to you is kind of like, you can see in the corner of their eye that they're kind of staring at you, wanting to talk at you. They're asking for autographs and all this kind of stuff. But the reason that impacted me because I was always in executive sales. So by the age of 21, I was already one of the youngest corporate executives working with companies like Red Bull, Apple, Electrolux, transportation and logistic companies. I was working with the top of the top at a very young age. So it accelerated my career very quickly. That was just through pure determination, hustle, grit, street smarts, trying to figure out how to get in front of the right people.
Yeah.
Then I went on The Voice Australia, and all of a sudden life became, let's call it, a little bit easier because when I'd sit down with new people, they'd kind of go, "Oh, I saw you on TV. My wife and I love that show. Tell me what Delta was like. Like, tell me a story." And so it helped me build this instant rapport with multi-million-dollar and multi-billion-dollar brands such that they'd want to talk to me. And I'd say, life of a high-flying salesperson is traveling around the world, taking people to lunch lunches, parties, all this kind of stuff. So it was just easier to get people out and pay for their lunch and talk about their business and their woes and their struggles and their strategic direction, what they're trying to achieve, the problems that they're trying to solve in their business. And so that was, before I even knew what it was, that was branding in a nutshell. That's what branding is all about. It's that recognizability. It's people, like for you, for instance, you've got the 2 Comma Club award. I mean, that's a brand right there, right? So people see you and go, Chris is a big deal. He knows what he's doing. He's not full of crap like most other gurus online. And so my life kind of went in that direction. I was like, I want to go higher. I want to go higher. I want to go higher. I want to go to the next level. And it was Steve Baxter, one of the sharks on Shark Tank, said to me, Oscar, sales is hard as it is, right? It was the realm I've always been in. But he said, selling a business is the hardest thing you could possibly do. It's the hardest sale you could possibly make. And in my mind, I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. If that's the hardest thing to do,
done.
Yeah, done. That's what I want to do. And so I just pursued this path, and I ended up going around the world speaking, and I put together a group of the most incredible people that I had ever met, right? Sissy Ma's one of them, who's just been in mergers and acquisitions her whole life. She's been a financial controller for, I think, a $2 billion company. So she's managed huge resources. John Rankins has built an incredible software platform, manages 4,000 people around the world from a sales capacity. Marco lived in Silicon Valley, turning companies around for 20 years. Jacob Galea, he's the private jet guy, coaching, mentoring celebrities on mindset. And I just found these really impressive people. And I'd heard, this is something that changed my life. I heard, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. Or your income is the average of the 5 closest people around you. So I looked at my friend sphere and I thought, well, I got to go up a level. Like most of the people that I hang out with aren't punching at that high echelon level. So I've got to do something to change, to get in the room with people that are doing incredible things with their lives and able to turn companies around. So that's kind of how I, maneuvered myself into this spot. And because of the brand that I've built, people just come to me and they're like, hey, I need this help. I want to do this. You're the guy to help me. So branding has really made my life, I don't have to chase so many clients. Yes, I have to develop strategies to attract clients, but clients will, be attracted to me and they'll ask me for help. So that's kind of how I got on this crazy train.
I love it. So I'm going to share screen here just for a second. Like, The Voice is a TV show. Apparently there's an Australian version as well that you mentioned. And so you were on the show. Have you sang your whole life, or like, that's a whole nother story, man. Like, how'd you get on the show?
Yeah, for sure. So if you type Oscar after The Voice Australia, you'll probably see my images.
Yeah, let's see if I can pull it up. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I've been singing since I was in primary school. I joined the choir, and when I went to high school, singing was no longer the cool thing to do. So I stopped singing until in year 9, somebody said to me, well, I've written a song. Do you want to come and perform it with me? And I was learning guitar at the time. So I thought, yeah, I'll do it. And everybody cheered. Everybody loved it. So I thought, I'm getting back into singing. And then I kind of just kept singing. I was in bands for a long time, playing lots of gigs for thousands of people at places like the Metro Theatre, etc. So it's just this whole roller coaster ride that I've been on.
That's awesome, man. This is you on the show,
Yes.
singing "Bed of Roses."
Yeah, Bon Jovi.
That's awesome, man. And I never knew you were on The Voice. I know we've only talked a few times so far, but this is giving me some good ideas, Oscar. So I competed on American Ninja Warrior for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe I got to leverage the TV show thing somehow.
100%, man. 100% honestly, it's the most powerful form of branding you can have. Like, it's the highest echelon of branding you can have. So you should definitely plug that more.
Branding, marketing, all the things. Okay, so and how many years ago was that?
Oh man, it was probably 8 years ago, I would say.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so it has some stickiness, some leverage.
Oh, absolutely. It follows me everywhere, which is great, because some people, when they Google me, they come across this and they're like, amazing. So it really has stuck with me.
I love it, man. Oh, cool. So branding, marketing, you started in sales.
Yeah.
And which I just saw another quote on this too. It was really good. I think it's by Patrick Bet-David. He's like, most of the successful CEOs all start in sales. It's the key skill ingredient that help business go forward, obviously. So you're no exception to that, which makes sense. You start finding yourself in bigger and bigger rooms. That challenge, you said, you're like, it's the hardest thing to sell business. That's where I want to be. Walk us through the first business you sold?
Oh, you know, I've done so many different things. You know, cafes, and I've sold equity in certain businesses. Honest, I'm going to be, you know, the first one that I did was a cafe, because I'm a bit of a coffee snob. I love food,
Okay.
all that kind of stuff. That was the first significant deal that I wanted to get myself into, because I loved it. Anyway, then you start getting into the financials. You start figuring out that the fridge is leaking. You've got all these issues. The owner had $100,000 of debt, so it completely like stalled the entire deployment of the. We had built a whole strategy around this. We'd harnessed resources. We're going to rebrand the place. We're going to do everything up as a kind of turnaround situation. And it turned into an epic nightmare and an epic failure. And that was the first one that we really tried to do. So, you know, I'm a big believer that the failures in life and the learnings are the key to, or the stepping stones for you to learn more things. Because you don't, you know, as a green entrepreneur, as someone that's, you know, getting started out and learning, you don't think about these. You don't. What people don't do is they don't think in advance. The real work of business is the thinking. And if you're running an organization of a certain size, what you'll note, if you pay attention to it and if you develop an awareness for it, is that people want to delegate the thinking back up to you, right? That when there's a level of thinking, or maybe now there's two options we could possibly go down, they start to go, oh, well, you know, let me go ask someone for help. And so as you go through the journey of building a business and selling businesses, what you learn to do is get further and further and further in the thinking, getting 6 months, 12 months, 5 years. Some of the executives that I work with are developing 20-year strategies for their companies in the banking industry. So the more senior you get and the more wealth you attract, the further in the future you really need to get. And so you'll pay. And I even had this situation today where there was one of my team members. You know, there was some thinking to be done. I kind of showed them what they needed to do, and they're like, "Oh, but what do you think?" And I'm like, "Look, I'm going to leave the thinking to you. I'm out of here." So you'll constantly hear that in my business, and how I train my CEOs to kind of go. The moment that somebody delegates the thinking up to you, you kind of go, no. I'm going to leave the thinking back to you. I think that small tweak that people can make in their business will completely change everything. Because as a green entrepreneur buying businesses, I had no idea about due diligence. And I mean, I know how to sell stuff. I know how to transact. So I would agree with Patrick David, and I love Patrick David Bett. The sales skills will get you to a certain point. I think they'll get you to like maybe 3 mil, 4 mil, and then the lack of organization skills will start to crush you. Like most really awesome successful people are either like ex financial controllers or ex accountants, or you know, they love operations. They're the ones that really get high levels of success.
So true.
Because they're so regimented, they're so planned, they're so risk averse. They want everything to be perfect. And whilst their businesses grow slower because they're not selling, they're able to just, they're able to just build this loyalty, and customers continue to repurchase. Whereas the people that are great at sales, they'll say whatever they need to sell to get the deal across the line, but delivery will be crap, and because they haven't organized it properly, they haven't thought ahead of the processes that need to take place along the journey. So I think sales will get you to a certain point, but when you get up to that 3 million, then 10 million, then let's say anything above 10 million, that's where your sales skills will start to really hurt you. You can go out and land a $5 million deal or a $10 million deal, but you'll never deliver unless you get amazing people around you that can plan a SOW, that can, have a regimented approach for delivery, planning milestones, project management, all those kinds of things. They're the skills that will really help take people to the next level.
It's so true. It's so true. And I might even submit that that starts happening before 3 million a year in sales, maybe like around 1 million a year in sales, where you're like, ooh, delivery is starting to hurt a little bit, and having team and having systems is that thing that brings life back to the business and the entrepreneur. Because the cycle that I've felt personally in multiple different business, because I kept bumping up against that $1-2 million a year in sales mark, and then it was like team delegation and hire, and I was like, oh, like I don't know these, like I just know how to transact, and like I could call and fulfill, but then I feel that weight too. And so at that level, like you're saying, like I know, and I'm sharing my own story, but I know everyone listening, watching has felt this to some degree too, where it begins to hurt so much you actually don't want to grow.
Yeah.
And that goes
Absolutely.
down a whole other problem.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to compound on that is, so thinking is a huge part of this. The other part is having a really solid regimented process for decision making, because the
Yeah.
higher you get in, the bigger your business gets, the more critical the decisions you should be are making. So a decision could cost you $1 million. Let me give you an example. One of my clients, fastest growing company, did over $10 million in 1 year. They were just crushing it. They got so many
Right on.
amazing clients and logos, right?
Yeah.
Then the year after, COVID hit, and they were kind of getting a little bit comfortable with the fact that they had gotten so much success and they got really branded and they were featured everywhere and everybody was writing about them. The next year, they lost $6 million. Like they burnt $6 million worth of cash. Like they literally,
Yikes.
like, so it's like, and I work with companies all the time that have gone, let's say they've been profitable for 3 years, and they go, or actually one company I'm working with, profitable for 17 years. They
17
take
years. Okay.
Yes, they take 17 years worth of profit, invested into a new idea, company tanks, stock price tanks, and everything, and the whole place is set on fire. Now they've spent $50 million on an idea that didn't work. And so people need to understand that the larger the business, the more careful you need to be with a decision. A simple marketing decision could cost your business $60,000. It's one decision that you made. Maybe the decision took you 10 minutes to make. Maybe the decision took you 2 weeks to make. And so those decisions need to be very planned, very established. I'll
What
give
are
you
some
another
best
example.
practices?
Sorry.
What are some best practices you may, like a decision, like, so when you say that, I'm like, oh crap, you're right. I don't want to be the one that makes the decision and like that in my business. What's a good a decision-making process to model?
So I love the 3C model. It was taught to me by Hugh Hilton of the Hilton family. He's done multi-billion dollars worth of turnarounds and also real estate deals. Now he uses this for negotiation, but I also use it for planning. It's the 3C model. It's curiosity, creativity, and commitment. Now, under
Okay.
that, we need to understand that all great decision making starts with a good fact base. So I see so many businesses making assumptions based on what they think. They think that, let's say they got to choose a market demographic, let's say, and they're like, okay, here's all our competitors, and they're playing in a big space. So therefore, we shouldn't compete there. We should go low market into small to medium business, right? And I see this decision being made every day. It's like we think that small to medium business will be easier just because it's an idea that we have. It's a false assumption. And so they pursue that, and it doesn't bear fruit because the small to medium business has very different challenges than a large enterprise. Let's say you're a security company and you're trying to sell high-end security to small to medium business. Their challenge is making payroll, and that's pretty much it, right? They're not thinking
Yeah.
about how to secure themselves, next generation security, meeting regulation and obligation. No, it's fight or flight in small business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first thing is number one is the fact base. So go get your fact base. The next part is the thinking part of the equation, which is sitting down like with a cup of coffee and just documenting the thoughts. This is where people get stuck. They don't document their thoughts. So go down, start to think, start to document your thinking. Then from there, you go and let's work on strategy. So the strategy will need to take into consideration market data. So you will need to look at the competitive landscape. You'll need to look at what your competitors are doing great, what they're doing poor at. You can go in and you can have a look at all the, let's say, 1-star reviews of all your competitors, seeing what they're doing crap, so that you can have a look at, where there's
Yeah.
an opportunity for you to shine and differentiate yourself. Then from there, it's about strategic planning. So strategic planning are the things that you need to accomplish. So maybe it's 8 things or 9 things that have to be accomplished across sales, across marketing, across product, across operations, across talent within the business. And then you need to come up with some key themes that say, okay, these are the steps that need to take place. These are when the steps need to get done, and this is how we're going to measure our progress. That's what I would call the model for doing really good strategic planning, getting a really good strategy in place, and making decisions effectively. You have to slow down decision making, stop making decisions from the gut, and get a really good solid process for making decisions so that you can actually grow your business faster and take advantage of the fruit. The other thing that I'll add there is the opportunity cost, right? So in our business, we started a new small business within a business, right? In 1 month, it made $17,000, right? So it's a small test. It goes, okay, there might be some goodness here. We then made a couple of changes. We're investing $3,000 a month into that business. It generated $17,000 in the first month. It's a pretty good ROI. We then said, let's test this again. Let's start to bring in more people. Let's get a salesperson on board. And the salesperson hasn't performed for 2 months. So it's not that I'm losing $6,000 in that equation. It's that my opportunity cost was 17,000 times 2, which is $34,000 that I've lost, plus the $6,000, right? So now I'm sitting at around $40,000 of lost potential due to that one decision that I made, which was to change the business model, not do so much. And that's okay, because I don't want to get involved in that business so much. So I'm happy to lose that money for a period of time to test it. But it's really about thinking through everything that could go wrong. It's about thinking through all of the dynamics and all the mechanics that you've got in the business in order to make good decisions. Otherwise, you make poor decisions and the business can fail quite easily.
Yeah. So making decisions from the gut, that doesn't always work out. It's true. When I do all the assessments, I come out very, very high as visionary. And so there's different resources like Oscar, like Entrepreneur Operating System or Empire or these other, Alex Sharfin was like the guy for me personally and my partners that started getting us to think strategically and do the thinking as you're saying. So all this being said, what I hear you say is you feel the gut, what's going on, and the thinking, the work that's being done is okay. It's not saying no, it's saying just expand on the idea. When would that take place? Who would be who's needed for this to take, what are the things that everyone's doing? It's just kind of extrapolating, more of the fullness of what it really entails and means beforehand. And man, if you, like everyone listening, watching this, if you are not doing that already in your business, no matter what level you're at, it's a good idea. Why? You could spend 60 minutes just, I got an idea, throw it on the whiteboard, write it on the Post-it, spend 60 minutes of thinking time, kind of planning that out a little bit of how that would go, and just see how you feel after. You might not be as excited about all the ideas after. Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, right? I get asked, even this morning, I get asked every day to partner in someone's business and to help them and to this and that, right? And they're like, I built this great product and, just help me take it out. In my mind, I'm kind of like, even if I invest 1 hour into that, like that's going to take an hour away from something else. And that 1 hour could be my family time, in which case no amount of money is worth it, right? So, you got to get to the point in the business where you'll really know what your worth is and know what you're like truly going after in terms of goals, and just be relentless in the pursuit of those goals. Because that process that I just explained, I mean, I could explain that in more detail over like 5 hours, 6 hours. But this is the real work that needs to be done, because I can walk into a business very quickly and know where the gap is in terms of what's the next level of detail that's been missed. What are the false assumptions that they're making? What metrics are they looking at that they're missing out on that's going to help them understand whether they're going to generate revenue? A lot of companies just track revenue over and over again, every week, revenue. But revenue is a lagging indicator. Revenue is something that happens if all of these things worked well.
True.
And so what we need to do in the business is go back and go, what are the leading indicators that will tell us if we're going to get to that revenue goal, and track both. So every company has a different issue, right? And I always say this, in some companies, it could be a smile that destroys your business. So let's say you're running a hotel and the person at the front desk is an asshole and not friendly and really cold and not wanting to help anyone. That could destroy a whole hotel empire, which leads on to, how is that person being managed? How are they being led? Has the manager got the capacity to actually correct behavior? Has the manager got enough gusto to actually fire that person? But there can be so many, when you get down to the bare bones, there can be so many different issues in businesses. Even a smile could tank a business. So it's about really getting into that detail and figuring out where the business is broken so that they can elevate it and expand it to the next level.
Kind of hear when you say that, what goes through my head is the art and the science of business and why both are important. And the science is the planning and the structure and tracking the KPIs, key performing indicators. But the art is how all that is created and how the product and service is delivered, the experience and the emotion that's felt and shared just through doing the training. That's kind of what makes us different, right? If you're just selling stuff, but then you've also been on The Voice. It's like, oh, but he's the guy that's been on The Voice.
Yeah.
And, it's like, that's a way different experience. Like if you're trying to sell me life insurance, but you're on The Voice, it's like, this is a way different combo. Anyway, a couple of things that go through my head. So, hey, if you're leaning into this, listening to Oscar, and you're like, oh, he actually kind of has an idea of what he's talking about, then yes, you are correct. And I'd like to direct you to can you state the site again, Oscar?
It was 8figures.growthlymarketing.com.
8figures. I'll put that up on the screen there. 8figures.growthlymarketing.com. In fact, you can even see it here. Here's the site, because Oscar's brain is it's been developed, it's experienced, and I know it'll serve you in a very strategic way. So if you're looking for more sales, and not just from like yes, revenue, but you can see that he's looking at multiple factors in a business. Sometimes it takes somebody just looking at your business from the outside looking in, but they've also, like, that's what they do. So they're going to catch things that maybe you're already feeling, but you don't know how to articulate. Even like it's I call it the parent-kid dynamic. It's like, I've been telling you for 7 years to, like, wash your hands or like do this, and then one other person says it, and the kid's like, oh, it's a great idea. So I know that's the dynamic that's real. Any other thing you'd like to add here with just growthlymarketing.com?
Look, I think within there, there's a video which kind of breaks down everything that I went through this process of going, I'm just repeating myself in various different sessions with different CEOs. So I wanted a place to deposit everything so that when I came across a certain challenge with a CEO, I would go, just go watch the part of marketing. Like, you really need that. Or if I see a CEO's got a bad mindset, then I'm like, go to the part about mindset. Or if there's a part where the CEO's not really being an effective leader, I'll go watch the leadership module content. So I wanted a place that could help me deliver results to my clients. So this is kind of what I've built out for people.
Right on. Well, thank you for doing that, and thank you for sharing it with us today as well. Before we wrap up here, I always like to end with one question. And the question is essentially, why do you do what you do? But here's what I mean by that. Now I'm giving you a little bit of time to think too. So any artist, any musician, any entrepreneur, athlete, or person like that is it's their medium, it's their art form that they're contributing. It's a really vulnerable place to keep leveling up and learning more, and then really putting yourself out there, which early you stated you do. You're like, oh, what's the hardest thing to do? Sell businesses? Okay, that's what I'm going to do. You're constantly leveling up, putting yourself out there, and everyone listening, watching also is leveling up and going that direction. Is addicted to momentum. So the question is, Oscar, what drives you? Why do you keep pushing forward?
I'm going to answer that as honest and as real as I can. I've been through a lot of hardship in life, and I know what being miserable is like. Like, I know what hitting rock bottom's like, and I know what being miserable in life is, and I know what feeling unhappy is like. And part of my drive is a deep desire to never go back there. And the only way to really to be on that journey, most people live quiet lives of desperation, right? Most, you go into, I work with a lot of corporates, and they're kind of just like waiting to retire, right? They're like asleep at the wheel. They kind of like, they don't enjoy what they do. They don't love what they do. And I spent many of my years not really enjoying my life or appreciating myself. And I got to the point in life where I was just like, I just have to get myself into a place where I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud of my accomplishments. I never want to look back on my life and go, well, you just turned out to be a piece of crap, didn't you, Oscar? Right? So I've got this real need to achieve my higher self. Now let me balance that for a moment. I used to, going back several years ago, I used to really want to change the world. Like, I would make really dumb mistakes in order to help people and really try to just be there for them and make a difference in other people's lives. And I was going to go and speak in South Africa. I went to an entrepreneurship conference. I spoke in front of about, let's say, 600 entrepreneurs, the largest one in South Africa. And I kind of, like, it was a tough time in my life. And I was on the bed, and I kind of said to myself, Oscar, why do you want to change the world so much? Like, you're making dumb decisions now. You're playing a little bit dangerously this game of business. Like, why are you so driven like that? And then the answer that I gave myself was like, well, I want to change the world. And I said, but why, Oscar? Why do you want to change the world? I had this dialogue with myself,
Yeah.
right? I said, well, why, Oscar? Why do you want to change the world so much? And I kind of thought about that, and I thought, well, the response that I got back was like really emotional, because the answer was, as a kid, I was obese growing up, and I always felt this sense of powerlessness. I came here as a refugee. We came here with nothing. We grew up in the bad side of town. It was a bit rough. There was always fights going on, and I kind of, I got to the point where I was like, I felt powerlessness when I grew up. So now, helping other people makes me feel powerful. And I started crying. Tears were streaming down my face, because I realized that I hadn't accepted myself and loved myself the way that I should. Like, I don't need to change the world in order to feel good about myself. I don't need to change the world to feel power. What I need to do is go inside and come from a place of power, in that I am okay the way I am. I've done what I can today. That's powerful enough. That's where you get your sense of power from. You don't get your power from things that happen in the outside world. Like, you can have $1 billion in the bank account and still be the most miserable person ever, that doesn't value their family, that treats their kids like crap. And that's not powerful. That's weakness, because you're trying to mask up all these insecurities. So for me, it was being free into a life of living without insecurities, and for accepting myself for who I am, and to get on this progress of just trying to be better every day, just trying to, set goals, achieve them. Some goals I don't set, so I set new ones. But for me, it's about that growth. It's about that small micro growth every single day. And it's not about this big fairy, I want to make $1 billion. Like, none of that stuff matters. What matters is how I feel about myself, and whether I can live up to my word or not, because I do make big claims. And if I don't live up to my word, how can I go back on that and make sure that I do deliver somehow? So that's kind of where my drive and motivation comes from.
Boom. Oscar, dude, thank you so much for giving us the real answer. Being vulnerable with that, like, it might be kind of funny, but anyway, I can feel you in that response. I can feel that was a real time for you, and that you were really connected to that, and that's actually something that shifted the trajectory of your life, because you took that time, ironically in this case, to do some thinking and asking and listening.
Yeah.
And I love that phrase that it comes from within and not necessarily the external. Because I'm sure maybe there's someone listening, watching right now today that feels powerless, or there's someone maybe in the past that they felt powerless, and just kind of a timely reminder that they can, you can have peace today, you can have peace right now, and it starts from within. So that's some good stuff right there, man. So hey, you know what? I appreciate you taking some time to share some value, share your journey, share some new stories with us today. Any last words, thoughts that you have?
Look, I always try to end by giving a little bit of teaching. It would take a long time to digest, but I just want to explain one thing that an insight of life that I've come across, and I call it the Baho method, right? Which is BAHO. What I've realized in life is that everything that we have in life, and you can reverse engineer success. So the O in Baho stands for outcomes. So if you look at the outcome that you have in life, what your relationships are like, what your bank account's like, what your day-to-day is like, all the outcomes, you can reverse engineer that through the Baho method. So BAHO. B stands for beliefs. So whatever beliefs you have will turn into actions. So if I believe that going to the gym is going to, get me swole, then I'm going to go to the gym and get swole, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people misdiagnose beliefs with thinking, right? Because they're very different things. Belief is making a judgment on something, whether the facts are true or not, right? So like people that look at the world, right? Everybody has different religious beliefs. Like they believe that it's true. Is everybody right, or is there one person that's right, right? So they make these beliefs without the hard concrete facts, because that's not something that you can actually quantify and build facts for. So beliefs will change the trajectory of your life and will give you the right actions. And then those actions will turn into habits, and those habits will turn into outcomes. So, all the books like High Performance Habits, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, all these kinds of things. Habits are really important for an entrepreneur. Build the right habits. But for the foundation of all this is the belief systems. You've got to build the right belief systems, and you've got to, Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F.
Yeah.
People just believe in way too much. Like they're just believing in everything. It's like they got so many judgments and so many opinions about stuff. Whereas in my life, I kind of reserve judgment. Like if it doesn't impact me, I don't need to make a judgment on it, because then I'm putting energy and belief into a sea of things. Whereas I want my belief systems to be potent, to be concentrated, and to be effective. And if I'm kind of believing in everything, like, you know, people are like, oh, the earth's flat, and I want to learn everything about the earth being flat, or like, just these really crazy beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Or like, you know, this was a pandemic, this wasn't a pandemic, you know, like these really strong belief systems. And all that does is gives up our personal power to really believe in the stuff that's important in our lives. So if people want to reverse engineer their success, take an audit of your beliefs. Like, what are you believing that you've heard from some media outlet, or heard from some neighbor, or heard from other people in your family? Because they're just like, they're Chinese whispers. Now your whole identity and belief system is based on all of these hearsays, and now your whole personality, your whole identity, your essence of self is completely diluted because you have all these false belief systems from people that have given them to you. So again, back to the thinking, back to the fact base. Let's really know what we're going to believe in life, so that those things that we believe in are so potent and so powerful. There's only a couple of things that I believe in. Number one, I believe in that family is like the most important thing, right? I want my kids to like me. This is a huge difference between loving and liking someone, right? I want my kids to like me, but I want them to love me as well. And sometimes that means I need to help them with discipline, these types of things. That's where I rather concentrate my energy, rather than researching, is this a pandemic? You know, where did the COVID virus start? You know, what has the government done wrong? It's like, no, that's all stuff out of my power. What do I have the power to control? I have the power to control my business. I have the power to control my actions. I have the power to control the habits that I have, and I have the power to change the outcomes that I have. And if I earn the right to tell the government what to do, meaning I have tons of resources, tons of cash, and I can actually do something, then that's probably when I might start building some belief systems about how things should be better. But until then, let's build our belief systems upon something we can control, something we can measure, and then grow from there. Everybody wants to change the world, but they don't want to change themselves.
Ooh,
and so
that's a good line.
Where it starts, right?
So huge. Oscar, thank you so much, my friend. And everyone listening, watching, thank you for joining the Spotlight series, where we're bringing real people, getting real results. Listen, entrepreneurship can be lonely, but it doesn't have to be. And the Spotlight's the place to come to meet other fellow like-minded entrepreneurs that are leveling up and also addicted to momentum and progress and doing everything they can to get it. So, hey, appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one.